Hello matrons, welcome. It's good to see so many of you here today. So as Paul says, I'll be just giving you an overview of my fellowship of NHS improvement, a bit of my background, and also the process of development of the handbook. So that's me. I'm currently still Deputy Director at Westhorse Hospital for Infection Control and previous Fellow at NHS Improvement. So I'll play a video from Ruth May. I did a 5-minute interview with her about what she thinks about the matron's role, what she sees for the role, and she's really asked us to decide how we want to take it forward. And she left us with a question to answer, which we did, and now we have the handbook. So I'll play the video for you. Thank you for joining me today in this interview for the Matron's Conference. Please tell us about your new role and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Ruth and I'm the new Chief Nursing Officer for England. I have a role that covers the whole of England, north, south, east, west, and it is, as I understand it, to be the lead, the senior nursing voice and advice to the whole of England. It's not just about NHS. I feel very passionately that it's there for all nurses and midwives across the whole of England.
Yes, thank you. What's your priority for your new role?
I was lucky enough last week to do my very first Chief Nursing Officer Summit in Birmingham for 2 days. And I talked in my speech, I hadn't realised quite how long it was going to be, the whole hour of speaking about my priorities. So my first priority, the biggest priority I believe that we've got as nurses and midwives across England, is around the workforce. How we ensure that we've got a workforce fit for the future, how we're using everybody as part of the team, how we're wanting to make sure that we celebrate what we do as Team CNO. So workforce definitely is the very big priority for me as Chief Nursing Officer. The second bit then is about how we have renewed pride and celebration of us as professionals. Wherever I go, whether it's in community, whether it's doing a shift at Birmingham Children's Paediatric Intensive Care Unit, whether it was down in Southampton, wherever I am, I'm immensely proud of the sheer technical, the sheer credibility, the absolute clinical excellence that nurses and midwives are providing day in, day out. And I really want to celebrate that, and I want to make sure we as a profession celebrate that massively. And my third priority then is #TeamCNO, how we come together with one collective voice. And I've just seen over the last couple of weeks, well, since the 7th of January when I first took up and I launched #TeamCNO on Twitter, that it's starting to become a voice that we celebrate what we're doing, we challenge what we're doing, we have a conversation about where nursing and midwifery professions can go. So yeah, Team CNO is not about me, it's not about my direct reports, it's about every nurse and midwife across England coming together and standing firm and being absolutely clear about where we want to see nursing and midwifery go.
Excellent, sounds wonderful. What role does the matrons have to play in this?
Oh, huge role. Matrons like ward leaders or community team leaders, so matrons, senior nurses at that level, whether it's a matron in an acute ward, in an outpatient setting, in a private wing, or whether it's in prisons, wherever a matron goes. So senior nurses and midwifery leaders are critical to make sure that patients, the people that we serve, have safe care. They're also there though, not just for patients, but also for their staff and for their teams, making sure that they have the support they need, they have the constructive challenge and support they need. But the matrons, what I believe, is about bringing together what's right for patients, making sure they have safe and effective care, but also with some happy and safe staff. So it's crucial how you get that balance. So matrons roll up, they're key to making our care that we give our patients and our people that we serve. So.
Thank you, certainly. What's next for the matron's role?
Oh, you tell me. I'm looking for the matrons across England to have a voice, be part of Team CNO, be clear about what it is that you want to deliver, where you want to see yourself in the next 2, 3, 4 years' time as a professional group. You know, what is it that you want from me as CNO? What it is that I can support you on, but also where do you want to take the matron role? So I'm very new person, not yet into the 100 days, so tell me, what is it where you want to take it?
Thank you so much, Ruth. Such an inspiring interview. Wish you all the best in your new role as CNO for England. Okay, so you can see Ruth had left us with a question to say where we wanted to take the role. That's almost a year ago, and since then we have had lots of engagement events, 3 national events plus trust events, and now we have the handbook. And that question still exists, as Paul was saying, where do we want to take the role? So we have 3 discussion sessions throughout the day to really build on that and take it forward. So next I'll tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to this stage, and then I'll tell you about the handbook development and the purpose. So that's me. I'm sure each of us can remember the time when we collected our nursing degree or diploma. That was Kingston School of Nursing in Jamaica. So after qualifying as an RGN, I worked mostly in orthopedics, as well across all the other areas. And then I did my BSc in nursing as well, just because I've always focused on leadership and development to really give the best to patient and quality care, which is the cornerstone of the matron's role. After that, I am doing my leadership program. I completed an MSc in management and leadership, and interestingly, that took me into infection control. And then I had to do my infection control qualifications. So I did another MSc. And during those times, I've done lots of lead roles, mainly around infection control, head of service, deputy, and done lots of projects. So last year, 2018-19, I started my fellowship. At the time, it was NHS Improvement, and now it's NHS England and NHS Improvement. So I'll tell you a little bit about the journey and all the key stakeholders, and of course yourselves as matrons were a key part of the development. So that's the Team CNO, a team which contributed to the development of the Matron's Handbook. You can see Ruth there really sponsoring the development, the role, and asking us to just tell her what we wanted for the role. We have got Hilary Garrett, who is also part of the development of attended events and presented there, and Deputy CNO, and myself as a fellow doing the day-to-day consultation development projects, running meetings, things like that, involving all the rest of the team. And Paul Reeves there is my line manager while at NHS Improvement, and still work very closely contacting Paul about the ongoing implementation. We also had 3 engagement events, so that's one of the pictures from the Matron's engagement event, and also we have a picture of Team CNO there. So next I'll tell you a little bit more about the background, why the Matron's Handbook, why we felt a handbook was required. So yes, as Paul was mentioning, he was a modern matron almost 20 years ago, and that's when the Matron's Charter and the 10 key roles were launched, and now we feel that those roles doesn't match the current activities that matrons do, and wanted to make sure that that's documented, what you currently do, so that you can have the ongoing support and engagement that you need for the role. other projects and handbook available. We have the Ward Leaders Handbook, which was done by the previous fellow, and also the Executive Nurse and Handbook. Within the Matron's Handbook, we have a development and framework, which we'll discuss as part of the discussion sessions, and look at how we'll use that. So now I'll tell you a little bit more about the handbook process, the stakeholders engagement, and the key consultations that I undertook working with the rest of the team. So that was my main project, although I supported other events such as the running of the Deputy Director of Nursing conference, and also helping with the National Ward Leaders research. But my main project was to develop the Matron's Handbook. So it undertake quite a comprehensive consultation nationally, and so I'll give you a list of the consultation as I go throughout the presentation. So lots of different experts, lots of different arm's length bodies, academics, trust, in order to get a full feedback of what they felt was important to document in the handbook. Okay, so before that, I'll just tell you about a little bit more about the different projects that fellows at NHS England and NHS Improvement have done so far. So as a fellow of NHS Improvement, you gain quite a lot of development and support from the senior team, the heads of nursing and heads of services, Director of Nursing, Ruth May herself, and you get to do a main project. So mine was the Matron's Handbook. We've had frailty, digital, other leadership projects, Ward Leaders Handbook, End of Life Care, Dementia, and the National Ward Leaders Shadowing Research, which ward leaders will really look at whether shadowing would help them to be able to perform better in their role. So if anyone is interested and keen to have information on any of those, you can be pointed in the right direction to get resources on those projects. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit more now about why the handbook, because there are lots of other specialities that we could have chosen for development. So, as I say, the last publication about the matron's role was over 20 years ago. That didn't fit with the current roles that matrons does. And also we looked at other projects that we could have done, such as the clinical nurse specialist role, but following review, found that it was really important to have the matron's role really supported and documented. So the purpose of the handbook is to use to refer aspirant matrons to, for example, Band 7 who want to become a matron, also to point current matrons to, so you can look at signing off any competencies that you've already achieved, to take it to your senior staff and managers to ask for support, and maybe look at reviewing your job description. So all those things we'll discuss as part of the discussion session to look at implementation of the handbook. So just continuing on the purpose. So the purpose is to ensure that you're having that ongoing professional development, because we know that during your daily duties, you're just so busy, you haven't got that time out to take for personal development. Also, just to take the role back to quality. So whatever you're doing, whether it's patient flow, quality improvement, finance, project management, all of that should give an output of high quality care for your patients. And really profiling the role, what we see for the future of the matron's role, and bringing and looking beyond the clinical skills to see what else you can do as a matron. So a long list of contributors in terms of engagement. So as you can see, we've had really high level senior interest and support for the role from Ruth May and all her deputies, and Paul Reeves and all the other team members, senior chief nurses at Trust, academics, and we've consulted directly with various trusts, the Queen's Nursing Institute, the King's Fund, and other senior specialists. So this is a list of some of the trusts that I've consulted with directly. So we've had one-to-one engagement with these organizations, and they have fed back directly and comprehensively on the handbook. So we have also had feedback from neighbouring countries such as the Welsh Government and also Scotland as well. So I'm sure they will co-design and look at what we're doing to see whether they want to do something similar. Some of them have got already similar programs in place, but it's not called a Matron's program or a Matron's handbook. So I'll tell you a little bit about the Matron's network and the Matron's engagement events. So we've had those 3 events, over 300 matrons attended and contributed to the handbook, and we've acknowledged that within the foreword of the handbook. So when tweeting, use hashtag Team CNO or Matron Network, and CC at Matron Network or also myself, so that we can continue the engagement. If you need any further contacts about any of the resources as well, you can tweet it within the network, and we can all support each other to get that information. Also for the Matron Network, make sure you're sharing things that you're doing at the trust. If you're having local matrons meeting or engagement events locally, just share what you're doing so that everyone can learn and we can follow suit as well. So in terms of the engagement event, that's a snapshot of what we have done each day. So you can, the slides will be available so you can look at those in more detail. The old 10 key roles, if you look at those, it's mainly around leadership by example, which is good, quality, and ensuring a clean and safe environment. For me, as an IPC specialist, that's very good, and it's still within the Matron's Handbook. You'll see a big section on infection control. So these are still inbuilt within the new set of roles. So we're not losing all of these. Following the engagement, as you can see, is quite a long list of stakeholders engagement. These are the key things that everyone wanted to see within the handbook, from quality to assurance, leadership, performance. And these things are you do these things already. It's just that it might not be listed within your job description or within your role profile. So it's really to acknowledge that and to support you with all that you're doing. So in terms of the actual roles, these are the actual description of the new 10 roles, and it's quite comprehensive and making sure that governance, workforce, performance and everything is listed. You can see digital and research as well, because we want to ensure that staff have a chance to undertake clinical academic career and really show that we are high level on academic staff as well. We deliver quality care, which is the foundation, but also we can deliver research and other things alongside that. So I'll quickly look at each role in detail, just give you a few pointers on each role, but we'll have the discussion session to look at each one of those. So leadership, and what we said is that leadership needs to be inclusive of staff from all different backgrounds and sexuality, to make sure that we are supportive and really supporting staff that might not look to be the routine fit within nursing or within a role. So making sure that we're tweeting and supporting the Year of the Nurse and Midwives, and tweeting as well with hashtag Year of the Nurse and Midwife. So look at a bit more on quality. When it comes to quality and patient safety, we focus on looking at the CQC, key lines of inquiry, and making sure that everything we do on a daily basis meet those criteria. Not just when the CQCs come in, because when the CQCs come in, we'll work 110% to get it looking very nice. And it does look nice, but it's just really how we keep that high level of performance even when the CQC is not coming. Workforce, as you can hear from Ruth's presentation, workforce, really want to have innovation into building and growing your own workforce, recruiting and retaining your workforce as well. And Paul is head of new roles for NHS Improvement. Any support with any new roles, you can contact him for that. And we have also the Future Nurse, which is supported by the NMC, NHS Improvement, Health Education England. Again, talk a little bit about patient experience. So we have got the Darcy Circle, which says patient experience should include not only one element, but finance, patient safety, and quality. And within all of those, you should end up with good quality care. So for example, if one is missing, say for example you haven't got a good environment, you can see that the patient experience might not be the best. So performance and operational oversight, I think this one tends to be a little bit worrying when we look at this, but it's really being able to plot and monitor your performance as you progress from week to week, and being able to intervene as you see the performance go up and down. And I'm sure you've discussed this at your Matron's meeting and other events. Digital. So within the handbook, you'll see links and information on digital. We have got lots of support from NHS England and NHSI, NHSX, NHS Digital, really leading the way in how we'll have a digitalized workforce. And that means that within the organization, we'll have to lead locally on implementing those. So make sure you're really supporting your staff with any resources that they need for that. Education and training, lots of resources available. These are just some examples from RC and NMC, again, NHSI and NHS Improvement, lots of other resources within the handbook. Research and development. I know within the role you're very busy, but I suppose it's how you build in time for the clinical and academic and development aspects of your role. But these are things that we can discuss and look at the practicalities of doing that. Collaboration and effectiveness, working together, sharing. So we have the Matron network, making sure that we're connecting and tweeting, sharing good practice, and really supporting each other. So the final role is around service improvement and quality improvement, looking at projects that we can run as a proper quality improvement project. And there are lots of different methodologies within the handbook that you can use for that. And if you need further information, you can just tweet and ask for that. We'll point you in the right direction. So let's talk about the developmental framework. So for this, it's really a guide to say these are some of the things that you should be looking at having within your competency profile. A lot of it as senior matrons or experienced matrons, you'll already be competent at, so it's signing those off. And for new matrons or those looking to be matrons, they can look at developing those skills that they need. Lots of support available there, so make sure that you click on the links to those or type in the web browser to connect to those areas. And I've mentioned how to use it, just to share it among your colleagues, bring it to the attention of your manager and other senior colleagues, the matrons group. Really look at the handbook, develop your JD, and develop your programs within the hospital. So in terms of a copy of the handbook, so the handbook was launched by Ruth May just after the first event on the 4th of February. It was launched by the Nursing Times, and there were free copies, digital copies for everyone. However, I think the free period have passed, but really it's just how you get a copy of that book. The handbook and the Nursing Times for February. I've got lots of information, interview from various matrons, from Ruth May, previous RCN president, from Paul, from myself, and as I say, other matrons as well. So the next step then is really to continue to implement the 5 conferences. We have 3 more Any staff who haven't managed to come to this can attend one of the others. Distribute the handbook. I've got copies, hard copies for you here today, and it's really to look at it and discuss throughout the day. That's my contact details. So it's just that I've got time for questions. Any questions regarding the fellowship or the handbook? Yes.
Thanks. I was a modern matron many years ago. I'm now Deputy Director of Hospitals. But how much mental health goes into that as well as the handbook?
So we did have consultation with mental health matrons and community matrons, but because it's a broad framework, and whether you work in acute, maternity, mental health or community, felt that the overall element around leadership, quality and all of those should apply, and then it's for you to take it and to implement it locally according to your role. Because also we have clinical matrons as well that doesn't have staff, and the matron's role tend to specialize in some areas. It might have nutrition, workforce, infection control. I was an infection control matron. So it wasn't about listing the skill set or the duties for everyone, but really a broad overview of what the matrons should be doing. Was there any particular element that you thought could have been highlighted for the mental health matrons?
Historically, I did a lot of work with Neil Grimlock and Mark and Ray from a mental health perspective around the modern matron role when we reintroduced it back into mental health.
Yes.
And it was, there's lots of elements that, yes, the principles are obviously across the board, but there are elements, I think, that looks like a lot of them have been captured. I'm really pleased to see 10 competencies that that does seem to have captured most things. But just as with everywhere, I suppose, the roles are new.
Yes, so it's really diverse, the role and the names of the roles. But we can pick up afterward, just look at what we could do in terms of anything that you think might need to be highlighted and profiled as we continue the implementation. Okay? Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, so we'll have a discussion session, and we'll have Paul next to continue to chair the event. Thank you.